I moved into the house on a rainy Thursday. It was an old Victorian on the outskirts of town, a place the real estate agent described as charmingly quaint and full of potential. I laughed when I first saw it. To me, it looked like something out of a nightmare. The windows were grimy, the paint peeling in long, curling strips, and the front door sagged on its hinges. But the price was absurdly low, and as a freelance writer with no social life and an unending need for solitude, I didn't care. I paid the deposit and signed the papers without thinking twice. The first night I unpacked what little I had, my boxes littering the creaky wooden floors. The wind outside howled like a pack of wolves, rattling the panes, and I remember thinking it was the perfect ambiance for writing. I made a small fire in the fireplace, and the warm light danced across the walls, revealing ornate moldings cracked with age. I slept that night with the blanket pulled up to my chin, feeling the house breathe around me. The next morning I noticed it, a slight shift in the hallway floorboards, a faint hump that hadn't been there the day before. I chalked it up to settling. Old houses settle, I told myself. But by evening, the feeling had grown. When I walked past the hallway, it felt like the floor was pulling at my feet. The walls seemed to lean closer, shadows stretching unnaturally long, and then the whispers began. At first, I thought it was the wind again, but the whispers didn't move like wind. They were soft, insistent, as if the house itself were murmuring secrets it didn't want me to hear. I didn't understand the words, but they filled my ears with a strange sense of dread. A feeling that someone or something was just behind me, watching, waiting. The first night I heard it properly was around 3 a.m. I woke to a loud cracking noise, like the sound of wood being split, and the floor beneath my bed shifted violently. I sat upright, heart hammering, and the whispers stopped. The silence was worse than the noise, heavy and thick. I grabbed my flashlight and moved cautiously toward the door, but the hallway looked wrong. The walls had stretched, the ceiling seemed higher, and the hallway itself had twisted slightly, like a funhouse mirror. I spent hours pacing that night, listening, watching, trying to convince myself I was imagining things. By morning, everything seemed normal again. The hallway was straight, the floor level. I laughed nervously at myself, muttering about stress and new house paranoia. But the second night confirmed my fear. The house was alive. I woke to the sound of hammering, not outside, but inside the walls. The rhythm was frantic, panicked. I crept from my bedroom with the flashlight shaking in my hands, following the sound to the living room. The walls were pulsating, the wallpaper bulging as if something inside was trying to escape. The fireplace bricks had shifted. They were no longer in the neat rectangular order I had arranged them. And then I saw it, the first rebuild. A section of the wall had split open like it was breathing. From the gap, planks and nails slowly moved themselves into place, reconstructing a section of wall I hadn't even noticed was damaged. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I only watched as the wood shifted, aligning perfectly, smoothing over old cracks as if the house was repairing itself in real time. The next few days were a blur of terror and fascination. Every room changed subtly, then drastically. A staircase appeared that hadn't been there, leading to a pitch-black attic. Doorways relocated themselves while I slept. The mirrors reflected rooms I didn't recognize, and the whispers grew louder, more coherent, almost demanding. I started writing everything down, recording the sounds, photographing the shifts, but nothing captured the true horror. One night, I followed a particularly urgent whisper into the basement. The stairs creaked beneath me, shadows stretching long and unnatural across the stone walls. At the bottom, the air was cold and damp, smelling of rust and decay. And then I saw the floor move. Sections of concrete lifted and twisted like living things. In the center, a figure emerged, or at least a silhouette, dark, impossible to define. It didn't move toward me, but it wasn't still. Its presence radiated an oppressive weight, a sense of pure malice. I stumbled back, heart racing, nearly tripping over the stairs. When I looked back, the floor was solid again, no shadow, no figure. I ran upstairs and locked every door I could, though I knew it meant nothing. That night, I barely slept. The whispers were relentless, louder than ever, repeating words I almost understood. Build, fix, stay. Days turned into weeks. The house's changes became more aggressive. Rooms merged into one another. Walls twisted and turned to trap me in unfamiliar layouts. I began to notice that objects moved when I wasn't looking. Chairs appeared stacked in corners. Doors I had locked the night before were wide open. I started leaving cameras in every room, but the footage only showed static. Or worse, empty rooms in perfect order, even after I had sworn I saw changes. I realized the house wasn't just repairing itself, it was evolving. It learned my routines, anticipated my movements, adjusted in real time. I tried to leave once, grabbing my keys and running toward the front door, but it wasn't there. In its place was a brick wall, smooth and unyielding. I tried the windows, but they were either locked impossibly tight or replaced with panels of wood that hadn't existed before. Sleep became dangerous. Dreams and reality blurred. I would wake in rooms I didn't recognize, the ceiling lower, the air thicker. Sometimes I would see glimpses of figures at the edges of my vision, human-shaped but entirely wrong, limbs twisted, faces blurred. They never approached, but they followed, watched, mocked. One night I woke to a new construction, a hallway stretching into darkness where my kitchen had been. I felt compelled to walk it. The whispers called me, clearer this time. Build with us. Stay with us. As I walked, the walls pulsed around me, breathing, flexing, almost alive. And then the floor beneath me shifted violently, and I fell. I woke in a room I now call the core. There was no ceiling, no walls, just a twisting, spiraling space of wood, metal, and stone, endlessly reconstructing itself. Figures moved within the structure, shadows building and rebuilding, screaming and whispering simultaneously. I realized then that the house had never been mine. It had never been empty. It was a living organism, and I had walked into its domain. I tried to fight it, to leave, to destroy something. Every tool, every object I used to smash walls or doors was absorbed instantly. The house healed itself faster than I could break it. It felt my anger, my fear, my desperation, and it fed on them. Then one night I heard a voice, a real voice, human, familiar. It called my name from behind the rebuilt walls. Faizan, come with us. Help us build. I froze. I knew that voice, but it couldn't be real. It had been years since I last heard it. My brother, missing since childhood. The thought of him was unbearable, but I knew deep down it was impossible. The house was not calling him. It was calling me. I ran. I fled into what I thought was the original hallway, but the walls twisted again, trapping me in a circular maze. The whispers became a cacophony, screaming over one another. Repair, build, stay forever. The air thickened and I could barely breathe. My vision blurred, and I realized that the house wasn't just alive, it was conscious, malevolent, and it wanted me as a permanent part of its construction. The last coherent thought I had before everything blurred was this: the house wasn't just rebuilding itself, it was building me into it. I don't know how long I've been here. Time has lost meaning. I wake up in rooms I don't recognize. The whispers are constant, louder than ever, demanding, instructing. Sometimes I think I catch glimpses of my reflection in the mirrors, but it's not me. Limbs twisted, face blurred, body melding with the walls. I think the house is slowly incorporating me, teaching me to rebuild, teaching me to stay. And now, writing this, I feel the walls tightening around me, pressing in. I hear new whispers clearer than ever. Build with us. Stay with us. Be part of the house forever. If anyone finds this, don't come here. The house is alive. It waits, it watches, and it rebuilds everything. I never believed in urban legends. Ghost stories were something to giggle about around campfires, or something my friends used to exaggerate on late-night drives. I wasn't gullible. But when I inherited the old Victorian on the outskirts of town from my great-aunt, I realized just how wrong I was. The house was massive, sprawling across a hill like a beast crouching in the mist. My great-aunt had left it abandoned for years, and from the moment I stepped inside, it smelled of dust, mildew, and something else I couldn't place. The floors creaked under my weight, and the air was thick, almost viscous, clinging to my skin. It wasn't unpleasant at first. In fact, I felt intrigued. I spent the first day exploring, unlocking rooms that hadn't seen visitors in decades. The wallpaper was faded, torn, peeling in strange curling patterns, and the furniture was covered in heavy sheets that looked like shrouds. The house was massive, labyrinthine, and I loved it. I felt at home. That night, as I tried to sleep, I heard it, a scratching, faint, irregular, coming from somewhere below. I chalked it up to rats or maybe the old plumbing, but the sound persisted, growing louder, more purposeful, almost deliberate. I lay in bed listening as the sound circled the house, stopping abruptly outside my door, then silence. The next day I explored the basement, determined to find the source of the noise. The stairs creaked under my weight and the air grew colder the deeper I went. The basement was enormous, a cavernous space of concrete and stone, shelves full of unidentifiable objects, and the smell, iron, rust, decay, made me gag. That's when I noticed it. The walls had shifted. One section, which had been solid concrete the day before, now bulged unnaturally, seams forming like the cracks in a living creature. I tapped it and it rippled under my hand as if the house were breathing. I stepped back, heart hammering, and the wall flattened again, leaving no trace of the anomaly. I laughed nervously, telling myself I was imagining things. The house was old. Old houses settle. Old houses make noises. But that night the noises became whispers. Soft, urgent, sometimes melodic, sometimes broken and harsh. Fix. Build. Stay. The whispers grew louder each night. I began sleeping with every light in the house on, but the dark came for me anyway. Shadows moved where they shouldn't. Angles warped, and the furniture occasionally shifted just enough to block a hallway or trap me in a room. Cameras didn't capture it. Photos didn't show it. But I could feel it. The house was alive. It started subtly. Doors I knew well began to appear in different places. Hallways lengthened while I slept. I woke one morning in my bedroom only to find the door led not to the hallway, but directly into the attic. I swear the attic hadn't even had a staircase before. I had to climb through the rafters to escape it. I tried leaving. I drove into town, thinking maybe a few hours away would calm my nerves, but when I returned, the house had changed again. The front door I had locked weeks ago now opened into a room I didn't recognize. Windows looked out over impossible angles, walls merged, ceilings slanted at unnatural degrees. Every photograph I had taken of the house's interior had shifted. Details in the background changed. Furniture relocated, shadows moving in ways they shouldn't. It was then I realized the house wasn't just haunted. It was self-aware. It rebuilt itself according to some logic I couldn't comprehend. But one thing was clear. It wanted me to stay. The first real terror came one night when I heard footsteps above me. Heavy, deliberate pacing slowly back and forth across the ceiling of the living room. I live alone. No one else was in the house. My hands shook as I picked up a heavy lamp ready to defend myself. The footsteps stopped, silence. Then, scratching on the ceiling. I shone a flashlight upward, but the light only revealed old, cracked plaster. I swear I saw movement, a distortion in the ceiling, a ripple. The house was changing above me, morphing. I couldn't sleep. I barricaded myself in one of the bedrooms, but the walls weren't solid. They pulsed, flexed, and at one point a door appeared where none had existed. From it came a low groan as if the house were stretching itself, testing me, probing. I fled to another room. Same thing. The whispers followed, calling my name, coaxing, cajoling, threatening. In desperation, I tried to leave through the basement again. The stairs groaned under my weight. The basement smelled worse than ever. Metallic and decayed, and then I noticed the walls had shifted again, forming tunnels. Passageways I'd never seen before. They led to rooms that didn't exist on the house's original floor plan. In one of them, I found something, a chair. Not just any chair, but a rocking chair. And it was moving. Slowly, almost deliberately, rocking back and forth. I approached, and the whispers became clearer. Sit, build, stay. I wanted to run, but I was frozen. The house was mesmerizing me, bending my will with sound and presence. Then, the floor beneath me moved, slowly at first, then violently. Concrete twisted like taffy. I screamed and stumbled backward as the walls and ceiling warped, forming a dome around me. Shadows pooled in the corners, taking shape. Humanoid, but impossible. Limbs stretched and bent in ways that should not exist. Faces appeared in the plaster, eyes open, mouths screaming silently. I fled back upstairs, but the layout had changed. The stairs led nowhere. Hallways twisted and coiled around me. Doors vanished, rooms duplicated endlessly. I realized I was trapped inside a labyrinth created by the house itself. It wasn't just alive, it was a predator, and I was prey. Days and nights blurred together. The whispers became commands. Repair. Build. Stay. I tried to resist, but the house punished me. Every time I tried to sleep in one room, the floor would shift, lifting me slightly, tilting the walls, collapsing spaces around me. I began to lose track of my body's boundaries. My reflection in mirrors showed a distorted version of myself, limbs twisted, face blurred, merging with the shadows. The breaking point came when I discovered the heart of the house. I had followed a particularly insistent whisper into a room that hadn't existed the day before. The walls twisted around me, forming a circular chamber. In the center, there was a pile of debris, but it was alive. Wood, stone, metal, even parts of furniture, moving, growing, reconstructing themselves constantly. Figures emerged from the pile, shadowy, faceless, extending limbs into the room, testing, touching, assimilating. I understood then, the house didn't just rebuild itself. It rebuilt everything. It consumed, reshaped, and integrated what it needed. And now it wanted me. I tried to fight. I swung tools at the figures. I smashed walls with hammers. The house healed faster than I could damage it. It absorbed me. My screams were swallowed by the shifting corridors. The figures retreated into the rebuilding mass, only to emerge again, closer, faster, more terrifying. Then I heard voices, human voices, my friends, my family, calling to me from beyond the walls, begging me to leave. But the house twisted the sounds, blending them with whispers, commands, and screams. I couldn't trust my own ears. I couldn't trust my own mind. Now I exist in a room that doesn't exist. Walls shift around me constantly. The whispers are relentless, forming sentences, instructions, demands. Join us, build, repair, stay forever. My reflection, when I see it in shards of broken mirror, is almost gone. My body is merging with the walls, my limbs elongating, my face distorting. I understand, finally. The house doesn't want residents. It wants builders. It doesn't want life, it wants contribution. It wants me to become part of it, to repair it, to evolve it. I write this down as a warning, but I know no one will ever read it. If you find this house, do not enter. It will rebuild you. It will reshape you. It will use you as it uses everything else, a tool, a component, a permanent piece of itself, and the whispers never stop. Build, build, build. I shouldn't have come here. I knew better. I've heard the stories, the warnings scribbled on forums, whispered by old-timers in town, but I didn't care. Curiosity, ambition, a foolish need to uncover what others were too terrified to see. It all brought me to that cursed house. The Victorian mansion crouched at the edge of the woods like a sleeping predator. Its windows, dark and watchful, seemed to follow me as I approached. I parked my car on the gravel path and paused, listening to the wind slice through the trees. For a moment I considered turning back, but something inside me, reckless, stubborn, irreversibly drawn, pushed me forward. The door creaked loudly as I stepped inside. Dust hung thick in the air. My flashlight revealed ornate moldings cracked and peeling, furniture draped in ancient sheets, and the faint, lingering smell of mildew mixed with decay. Silence enveloped the house, deep and complete, but there was something underneath it, a rhythm, almost like breathing. I started in the main hallway, documenting everything with my camera. I wanted proof, evidence that the stories were false, that the house was just old. But the air was different here, heavy, waiting. I felt it tug at me, subtle at first, like a gentle hand pressing on my shoulder. I ignored it. Night fell faster than I expected. I made camp in what appeared to be the study. Bookshelves towered over me, filled with leather-bound tomes I couldn't read. I set up cameras in every corner and began recording. The first few hours were uneventful. Then the floor shifted beneath my chair. Not a creak, not a groan, but a distinct, deliberate movement, almost as if the floor were flexing. I froze, listening. A soft whisper followed, "Build." I laughed nervously. Maybe it was a draft, a branch scraping the window, something explainable. But then the walls began to stretch. I could see the shadows lengthen unnaturally, crawling across the floors and ceiling like black smoke. The whispers returned, urgent, commanding, "Fix, build, stay." I grabbed my camera and began documenting everything. I needed proof, but the footage was wrong. Shadows moved independently of the light. Walls shifted subtly. The layout of the room altered frame by frame. And through the lens, I saw them. Figures, humanoid but twisted, grotesque, emerging and disappearing into the architecture itself. I tried to leave. I ran to the front door. It had vanished. In its place, a wall of warped wood and plaster, smooth and unbroken. Panic set in. I pounded on it, screamed, but it didn't budge. Windows were gone. Every exit was gone. I was trapped. I wandered the house, trying to map it in my mind, but nothing stayed consistent. Hallways duplicated. Staircases led to impossible angles. Rooms merged and split while I slept. Sometimes I awoke in a bedroom I didn't recognize, the walls dripping with condensation, the air heavy with iron. My reflection in mirrors became increasingly distorted, my eyes too large, limbs bending where they shouldn't, my skin blending with the shadows. The whispers grew louder, not just words but sentences forming commands and accusations. You will build. You will repair. You will stay. You belong to us. I could no longer tell if they were coming from outside, inside, or my own head. The house had invaded my senses, rewritten my perception. One night I followed a whisper into the basement. I shouldn't have gone. I knew I shouldn't, but the voice, so human, so desperate, drew me in. The stairs were steeper than I remembered, the air colder, thicker. At the bottom, the walls pulsed as if alive. Planks and bricks shifted on their own, forming tunnels, passageways, and alcoves that hadn't existed before. In the center of the basement, I saw it. The heart of the house. A spiraling mass of wood, metal, stone, furniture, and something else. Figures moved within the mass, faceless, shadowy, constantly forming and dissolving. They extended limbs, retracted them, merged with the structure. I realized in that moment, the house didn't just rebuild itself. It rebuilt everything it touched. I tried to leave, but the tunnels twisted impossibly. Walls closed in, stretching and compressing, reshaping to trap me. I stumbled and fell into the central mass. Pain shot through my body as it pulled me toward it. I struggled, but the house was stronger than me. Its whispers became commands, no longer polite or cautious. Become one. Build with us. Repair yourself, stay, I screamed, but no sound emerged. The walls absorbed it. The shadows reached out, touching my skin, infiltrating my body. My limbs jerked, contorted, merging with the mass around me. I was no longer separate. I was becoming part of the house. Hours, or was it days? Passed. Time lost all meaning. My perception fractured. I could feel the walls breathing, the floors stretching, the ceilings watching. Figures moved around me, whispering, teaching, guiding. The house was alive, intelligent, aware, and it had chosen me. I realized the truth. The house doesn't want residents. It doesn't want guests. It wants builders. It wants minds, bodies, and souls to repair it, to evolve it, to sustain its existence. Every floorboard, every beam, every wall, every shadow is part of a living, thinking organism, and I was becoming one with it. Sometimes I catch glimpses of my own body in mirrors, but it's wrong. Limbs fused with walls, my face a smear of shadow and plaster. I hear new whispers now, clearer, more insistent. Finish the work. Become whole. Stay forever. I understand it fully, finally. There is no escape. The house has no doors, no windows, no outside. It is infinite, self-rebuilding, self-aware. It wants nothing from the outside world. It wants me. It wants you too if you come. I write this not as a warning, but as a record, a trace. If someone finds this, they will understand the house's will. They will know it is alive, sentient, and relentless, and perhaps they will never enter it. I do not know if I am still fully myself. Part of me resides in the shadows now, in the wood, the stone, the living walls. I write these words with hands that are no longer entirely my own, in a room that shifts while I type. Every keystroke is absorbed, mirrored, rebuilt. The whispers never cease. The house is patient, it waits, and it rebuilds, build, repair, stay, forever, and now I am part of it.